How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Awesome Hardware, episode 12. You're watching Side B on my channel, of course. If you missed part A, go ahead and watch it. It happened before this one on Paul's channel at Paul's Hardware. It was a great half of the show, but despite everything Paul says, this half will be better. So glad to hear that you guys are here for the better half. We got a great show for you guys today. Do we have any more announcements other than they should buy our shirts and poop?
I think that was all. You can buy Kyle's shirts at Awesome Sauce Network /store.
/store. /store. You got it.
Yeah.
You missed the .com.
You can buy my shirts at store.paulshardware.net.
Okay.
No, that's
Sweet.
right. That's what.
Oh, that is right. Okay,
yes.
I thought you were purposely switching it around because you.
My store is store.paulshardware.net.
So you butchered mine, but you got yours 100% correct.
I go to my store more
I see how it
frequently
is.
than your store.
I see how it is.
I had to set it up, and
I always remember your
things
store,
like
Paul.
that.
It hurts me. It hurts me deep
Maybe
inside.
if your store wasn't so confusing.
It's the name of my. Anyway.
Shout out to Timmy Tech TV. I'm wearing his shirt today.
There you go.
There we go.
What up, Timmy? Yeah. All right, so we got a good show, good second half of the show for you guys today. I'm gonna just jump right into it, and we're gonna continue where Paul left off on his segment with tech news. The first article that I found that piqued my interest was about our friends at Nvidia updating their Grid streaming service. It's a cloud-based gaming service where you can stream games.
I'm told your renewed enthusiasm for your half of the show has made you too loud.
Uh-oh. Okay. All right. I'm gonna crank it down. Two enthusiasts.
You put your announcer voice on.
Two enthusiasms.
It's okay.
You know, it's the beginning of the show. The intro is very important. The intro and the outro, you gotta amp it up. I'm sorry, guys, if I'm blowing out your ears.
Jesus, we don't switch sides because then Kyle would have to do all this stuff, and he doesn't want to.
No, I'm totally open to doing it. You just like to do it so much.
Kyle, no, you can't.
I've done it once before, I think.
All right, you guys can tweet us. We never say this anymore. You guys can tweet us. Wait, they're not even there.
You guys should tweet us some questions.
We're going to do Q&A towards the end.
Yes.
Kyle's info's down here and my info's down there.
We're a little switched. We're a little reversey-versey. But go ahead and ask us some questions. We'll be taking your questions at the end of the show. But moving on to this segment here, this article, Nvidia Grid is updating their gaming stream service from 720p at 60 frames per second to 1080p at 60 frames per second.
This is on Hexus.net, by the way.
This is a Hexus article. Thank you, Hexus, for this beautiful article that you've written. And basically, what this means is you're going to get a closer experience to a PC, a gaming PC, essentially, because you're going to be gaming at full 1080, it's full HD, at 60 frames. So, I don't know, this might be good for some of you who maybe have like a mid to low end card and you're not really quite getting 60 frames per second. You could actually use this service and get higher than what you would be on your mid-range gaming PC. For the rest of us who are gaming at higher resolutions, this might be a slight step back, but the benefit here is that you have access to many different titles for, I think, a monthly subscription service, right? No, it's currently free. It's currently free. Nvidia Grid's free until June of this year, I believe, when it's likely that Nvidia will start monetizing this and kind of become like the Netflix of gaming is kind of what I'm getting.
Here's my question.
What's your question?
Why does Nvidia hate the Southern Hemisphere?
What about the Southern Hemisphere?
Look at their Grid data centers. They're all in the Northern Hemisphere.
They probably did some research and they found that no one in the Southern Hemisphere is playing any games.
See, people in Australia, no game playing going on down there.
Right, punk poets.
Same with South Africa as well as South America.
Yeah, they're just hating. What there must be like a term for this, like racism, but it's like hemispherism.
You're right.
Fearism.
You're right. There is a word for that. I don't know what it is.
At any rate, this is good news for those of us considering or already hopped onto this service from Nvidia. Of course, the only available client devices that you can use with the service is the Shield tablet, which no one I know has one except for Steve from Newegg.
Steve has one.
Steve's got one.
Linus has one.
Linus has everything. Yeah. But apart from that, you'll also be able to get this service from the soon-to-be-released Shield Android TV console thing that Nvidia recently announced at GDC. So I don't know. This also brings up some issues like. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, Paul, but I feel like something like this, if it's going to be like a Netflix equivalent for gaming, should be available on pretty much any device or any PC. right? I mean, you subscribe to Netflix, and you can watch Netflix not just from your TV, but from your tablet, from your smartphone, regardless of carrier and whatnot. But with this gaming service, it seems like you can only use it if you've already bought into the Nvidia ecosystem of hardware. If you're already using a Shield tablet or Shield Android TV console.
Yeah.
And I feel like this might be, I mean, this clearly is some kind of a cash grab from Nvidia to just try to integrate everyone into their products, which I feel isn't the best approach to it. I think it's a great idea. I think that streaming games has its uses and could potentially be really relevant and prevalent in the future, but if you're going to limit it to such a limited number of devices, especially from one carrier, then I feel like it's more of a cash grab than really trying to push the industry forward as a whole.
I can offer a counter to that.
Sure, I'm looking for one.
So from looking at it from the Nvidia side, I mean, if and this is speculation. I don't know this directly from anyone at Nvidia. When you're looking at setting up a service like this, what you're really looking to do is overcome some of the pitfalls that prior streaming services have had.
Mm-hmm.
And I am having a brain fart. I can't remember the one that's already existed for a while that's just recently started to shut down.
Is that GameFly?
No, it's not GameFly.
GameFly's the hard copy.
No, somebody in chat maybe posted. I should know that name. I just can't pull it out of my brain right now.
Okay.
But anyway, but what they're looking to do is offer an experience that at least is equivalent to like a console gaming experience. And what you're dealing with is latency, really, when it comes down to it. The amount of time that it takes for their grid servers from wherever they are to process the information, send the signal to display on your set, and for you pushing a button on your controller or your mouse and keyboard to get that back to their server so it can update what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with something that's completely off-site, that's reliant on your network connection and all the different possible hiccups in between, that's a pretty complex sequence of events that needs to happen, and it needs to happen constantly. And for a gamer who doesn't care about all that complexity going on behind the scenes, if the end result is like I pushed a button and there was a noticeable amount of lag or delay or something, then they're not going to be happy with the service. I think what Nvidia would say is they need people to invest in their own hardware because they designed it specifically at a hardware level to handle that complexity and to give you an experience that still allows you to play a game at a level that would be comparable to a console experience, if not a PC experience.
But do you think there's anything controversial of Nvidia purposely engineering it that way? Purposely engineering their own hardware, purposely engineering their service to specifically work better with their hardware. Do you think that's just coincidence, or do you think there's some R&D that went into that?
They're a business. People buying their hardware makes them money, and obviously that's going to be, I think their bottom line is like, does this push people to buy a Shield or a Shield tablet or something like that so that they can use this?
Right.
And I will go back to what they did on the GPU side when they started NVIDIA in-home streaming, for example. And people were complaining, oh, well, can I do NVIDIA in-home? Can I stream to a Shield from my AMD graphics card, for example?
Right.
And you couldn't, because on a hardware level, NVIDIA specifically built into the GPU an H.264 encoder that was part of the graphics processing pipeline that could take that image and send it over, over your in-home network to a remote device like a Shield or a tablet connected to an HTPC or something like that, or connected to a home theater.
Right.
So they're really physically like you couldn't do that with another card, and they specifically designed the chip that way. Now this is the other way around though. What we're talking about now, we're talking about the possibility of having a grid service which is remote, simply feeding an image that it's processing to you, and all you need to send back is a rudimentary set of commands for your game controls.
Right.
And yes, this could potentially be easier to implement, that you wouldn't need maybe, I mean, and I'm speculating a little bit here, but yeah, maybe it could be easier to do that without the need specifically for NVIDIA manufactured hardware.
Right.
And yes, it would be nice to see them open this up a little bit more. And who knows, depending on the adoption rate, that's the type of thing that I feel like, if it is possible, if there really isn't like a hardware wall in place that kind of blocks them from doing that,
right,
I think they would keep that in their back pocket. I think they
Yeah.
kind of have that there and be like, let's push this out there. Let's sell it as a premium for people who have our hardware already.
Right.
And then, you know what, if it's not picking up the way we want, then we'll do a wider launch and be like, hey,
Yeah.
you can just sign up for Grid,
Yeah.
use any system you want at home. You know, all you need is a thin client that can basically, you know, have a mouse and keyboard input or a controller input and be
Right.
able to take a, you know, fast enough for that internet connection, feeding the data, and to have a 1080 output. Like that's all you should really need.
And
So,
I think,
so yeah, hopefully
I think
it'll
Nvidia
go that direction.
currently has the privilege to do that, to kind of test the waters first before deciding, is this going to be a full-time thing where they're going to have to buy into the Nvidia hardware, or can we go open source more or less? Because AMD's kind of 1 or 2 steps behind, and they're not really in a position to compete with Nvidia on this cloud-based gaming service. So I think Nvidia is kind of testing the waters to see how much can we get away with until it tanks, and then once it tanks, then we can go back to like, all right, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's just make it open for all PCs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because obviously AMD is not really in the same on the same level as Nvidia when it comes to this type of service.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting thing nonetheless. But I just wanted to bring that up. So for those of you who are currently using that service, congratulations, you're getting 1080p at 60 frames per second, you know, on a TV in your living room, which is cool.
It's definitely needed.
Yep.
I mean, for them to sell it, you know, they have
Yes.
to they have to, like, it's like with consoles. Like the disappointment with this recent round of consoles, they launched and people are like, wait, there's games right now at launch that you can't, the consoles can't do 1080.
Right.
Like, 1080 is not a new fancy future thing. 1080 is
like DVD
it's
status.
standard at this point.
Right.
So yeah, they need it to be competitive. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, even if it works out for them, I really hope that, because here's my deal. I like simplicity and I like having my HTPC in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to add another device like an Android Shield console to my entertainment center, that's kind of a burden for me.
Yeah.
That's another thing I have to hook up out there. I just want an HTPC that can do it all. That's why I build.
Yeah.
That's why I spend the extra money
That's the same
to
here.
do something like
That's
that.
why I have
That's
an
exactly like you.
HTPC and I don't have consoles or anything. The HTPC is my DVR and plays games
Right.
and does everything I would want to do in the living room. So I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I would not want to like have to drop in another piece of hardware there
Exactly.
just for this service, or at least that would be that would hold me back from signing up.
Right.
Yeah.
But let us know what you guys think in the chat. Moving on to the next story, Corsair. Our good friends at Corsair, they've recently announced they're offering a way for RGB keyboard users of their brand, of course, to share lighting profiles with each other through RGB Share, which is what they're calling it. Which is kind of cool because, I don't know, out of all the RGB keyboards I've tested in my lifetime, and I've tested quite a few, nothing comes close to the K70 in terms of customizability.
It does seem to be your specialty.
I don't know if it's my specialty.
Really,
I wouldn't say that, but I
don't know. You have way more experience with RGB keyboards than I do at this point. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I think they're fun. I think the K70 RGB that I have personally, I've messed around with it a lot, and it was something that was a bit intimidating at first because the software is so complex.
Mm-hmm.
But once you really get into it, you realize how much you can do and how versatile it is. I could really do anything with that keyboard. And that's pretty exciting. But what's even more exciting is being able to share those profiles with your friends. And being able to see what kind of profiles they've come up with as well. So with this new RGB Share service, basically Corsair is offering a place where users of their keyboards, their RGB keyboards, can come upload their profiles and share them with the world, whoever you might choose. This is really great for people who invest in an RGB keyboard from Corsair and want the cool lighting effects with none of the effort. And that really appealed to me at first because I was like, I don't really want to get into the software right now. I just want to see all the cool shit it can do.
it seems to take quite a bit of effort if you really want to
really does.
figure it all out.
It really, really does. And it's great for those types of people. They can just be like, oh, this one's highly rated. I'm going to download this one, install it into my onboard storage of the keyboard, and there it is. I don't have to do any work for it. But it's also good for the RGB artists, so to speak, if they just want a place to show off their talent and their work.
Yep.
So they can upload those. Just a cool little feature. I think this is really the first of its kind that we've seen a manufacturer doing, is creating a platform where people can share different keyboard profiles with each other. It's kind of history in the making. right? As far as LEDs go, because and like going back to the whole Corsair RGB keyboard, it's really the most customizable board out there. There's a lot of other great RGB keyboards, I will say that, but none of them come close to Corsair's options in terms of full customizability. Because let's say I had like a Tesoro, like the Tesoro Lobera Spectrum keyboard that I had. Great keyboard, but I would never like need a platform where I could share my lighting profiles with you because the software is so limited. I'd be like, hey, look, check it out, Paul. I made all the keys green.
That's amazing.
I know. It
You're
took
lying,
me
though.
3
Your
seconds.
keys are red.
Well,
We're looking
profile 2. They're all red now.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. If there's any company out there who manufactures keyboards that needs a platform like this, it's Corsair, and I can see why they do it. They did it too, is because they're trying to promote their own line of keyboards. They're also advertising that they're going to start doing competitions for lighting profiles.
Competitions. What are the prizes?
I probably RGB keyboards. I don't know.
You get another
maybe RAM. Yeah.
another keyboard.
Program twice as much. So they're announcing that it's going to be held throughout the year, probably starting within the next couple months. But just a cool thing for all of you RGB keyboard users out there of Corsair, something to keep in mind. But yeah, moving on to the next one is Google and their self-driving cars. Apparently Google claims that their self-driving cars can drive better than you, which after reading this article, I might have to agree.
Who's you?
You.
That, like everyone?
Just you personally.
Is that a blanket you to everyone in the world?
It's just you.
Okay.
Yeah. So you should feel very bad.
All right. I don't know. I'm a pretty decent driver.
You will crash on your way home tonight.
If that really happens, you're gonna feel terrible. All right.
I'll feel smart. All right.
How many accidents have Google's autonomous rides got into over?
So first some context. Google has been testing their self-driving cars, about 20 of them, 20 or so of these self-driving cars for the last 6 years.
Freaking years.
Right. And out of those 6 years, these self-driving cars have driven about 1 million self-driven miles.
1 million miles.
That's a lot of miles. I don't think I've ever driven 1 million miles in my life. And now they're averaging.
That's reminded me of a song.
1 million miles. 1 million. There's a song with million in it.
Yeah, it's like a 90s song.
No, like the Rent song.
Down.
1 million, 100 minutes.
Take you down, let the river flow. Okay.
A billet. No, not that one. Okay.
All right, refocus.
They're now averaging 10,000 miles per week per car. One car is driving 10,000 miles a week. That's what I drive in a year. Probably a year and a half, actually.
I drive so little now.
I know. It's amazing.
I'm like, yes, I'm doing my part for the earth by not driving as much.
One tank of gas lasts me a month.
I know.
It's nuts.
It's pretty awesome.
Anyway, in that whole time of 6 years, out of all the 20 plus cars that Google has self-driving themselves, there's only been 11 minor accidents.
Minor. So
and
how many minors were killed?
Well, that depends. You'll have to Google it.
Okay.
So Google's Chris Urmson blames all 11 accidents on human drivers, on the human drivers that were involved in the crash. And so he said that there was no blame to be had on the self-driving vehicles themselves.
And Chris Urmson is like a super intelligent AI.
He created by Google.
Created by Google?
Yeah, he's actually one of the self-driving cars.
He's like the over...
He's been able to form his own opinions on himself.
We're interviewing
completely self-aware.
One of the self-driving cars here. What do you have to say for these accidents? It was all the humans' fault. It's all the humans' fault. The humans.
That's right. So just to go into detail a little bit more about these crashes, these 11 minor crashes,
okay.
The Google cars were rear-ended 7 times. Mainly at traffic lights, but also on the freeway. They've also been sideswiped a couple of those times and hit by in one instance, hit by a car rolling through a stop sign, which I'm sure many of us have gotten close to that at some point, driving through City of Industry. There are, however, still safety and even moral concerns about self-driving cars. For instance, the whole issue of having the onboard computer in a self-driving car decide who it's going to crash into based on the number of casualties that the situation presents. So if you know there's no escaping out of it and you have to crash into one car or the other, the onboard computer might have might make the decision to crash into one vehicle over the other because it sees that there's fewer human casualties involved in one outcome than another.
Okay,
So does a computer have the right to make that decision?
Ultimately, what we're going to need here is some kind of ranking system for all the people in the world.
Yeah, we have 5 scumbags in a car.
So we'll have, like, everyone gets ranked, right? And you'll be ranked, I'm number 2.51783 billion out of 6, or how many billion people are there in the world now? 6 or 7, 8 billion?
8 billion, whatever.
Way too many.
Yeah.
But the point is, you'll be ranked, right? So that
Right.
it'll recognize you. It'll be like, hey, this guy ranks. He's got a wife and kids, and then this guy over here, he
Uses a Mac.
owns a company worth several $1 million. We'll kill the
Oh.
wife and kids because this guy has a lot more money.
That's true.
Right.
And the guy with a lot more money is sure to be browsing the web more frequently, and hence he'll be looking at more Google ads, which is
so
great for Google.
That's how they'll determine this. So
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm all for it as far as the AI being able to decide who lives and who dies.
Judge and jury. Screw it.
You just got to get that ranking system into place.
Yes.
And
He with the most money wins and lives.
Dibs on first.
Dibs on number 1.
I'll take the number 1 spot. Since,
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, Google is always talking up how great these driverless cars are, and how they want a driverless future because, like I said, less time driving means more time browsing your mobile device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet or your laptop even, and that means more time exposed to Google ads. It's like this grand scheme that they've figured out, and it's genius, and it's almost manipulative and evil in a way. But at the same time, I can't say I'm not excited for the possibility of driverless cars being fully adopted at some point.
Okay,
in time.
let's, all joking aside, driverless cars are awesome.
Sure.
Driverless cars, I will 100% agree, are going to be better than people.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to pay closer attention. They're going to know where the other cars are on the road.
Yeah.
And this is something that will happen. I don't know when. I don't know if we're looking 10 years, 20 years, 50 years into the future.
Yeah.
But like people driving their own cars, that'll be a recreational activity. That'll be something you do for fun.
Right.
Like Back to the Future when he's like, what do people do in the future? And they're like, oh, you like run? And you're like, you run for fun?
Yeah.
Like, no. And people be like, you drive. Like, I drive for fun.
Right.
Rest of the time, computer handles it, and I don't have to care. I don't have to worry about a thing. But there are some serious, serious moral questions going on here.
Yeah.
And I think they are
Serious.
a little bit beyond the scope of this show to kind of discuss in a reasonable manner. So
Yes.
so I'll leave it at that. But yes, I'm very excited about this, but also very interested to see kind of how Google goes forward as an independent company.
Right.
And then eventually you're going to have the government getting involved to some extent because this is the type of thing they're going to have to establish some types of rules and regulations surrounding it. I mean, driverless cars all the way up to like autonomous drones and everything like that. So
Right. And also like the concept of like insurance. Like who's at fault if 2 driverless cars crash into each other? Is that the fault of the person or the car, right? I mean, there's like all these different kinds
auto
of...
manufacturer, the
manufacturer,
person who wrote the algorithm
Google.
for the complex series of AI,
Right.
Yeah. Like that guy, Google as a company as a whole.
Yeah.
Are
you paying for their insurance?
The person who owns the car who said, I need you to get me here as soon as possible,
Right.
or like something like yeah, there's when you're introducing automation, there's so many different levels of like potential pitfalls. And yeah,
Points of
especially
error.
when it comes to blame, and when it comes to especially something like you're moving around something large enough like a vehicle that could take someone's life if driven in the wrong direction at enough speed or something like that. Yeah,
Right.
It's gonna come up, and it's gonna be there's probably gonna be some growing pains involved.
Could you imagine if you cost someone their life because you didn't initiate a firmware update on your driverless car? Could you imagine that? Like, oh, I just forgot to click update. I set it to manual updates and I didn't update it, and now my car didn't know to stop at that red light and I killed 5 people. Crazy. This is the world we will soon live in, folks. Be equipped.
Yeah, I think we need more information.
Absolutely.
I like that Google has been doing this for 6 years,
Yeah.
and that they've put so many miles behind this. I think it needs another many. I think it needs many more still.
Yeah.
And I think it needs.
I agree.
Needs more cars out on the road.
It's going to change the world.
Because there's also going to be a transition period as well.
Of course.
There's going to be a time where, like right now, of course, everyone driving, you're dealing with 99.9% that's people out there driving.
Right.
And then there's going to be more and more autonomous cars on the road, and eventually there'll be a changeover where it goes from being to where you driving on the road as just a person driving a car in full control of it will start to be in the minority.
Right, right.
And it will be very interesting to see how all that progresses. I have no idea what's going to happen. I hope for the best. I really do hope for the best. But yeah, we gotta hope that these companies developing this type of thing, like Google, are investing the proper resources and time and care into creating it so that it's something that everyone can benefit from, and hopefully a minimal amount of people can actually suffer from if that's something that happens. Anyway.
Indubitably. So moving on to the next segment of today's show, we've got to fund or not to fund. A segment I'm bringing back after a while. It's been a while since I did this segment. Since we don't have lower thirds, Paul will be doing the sign language for all my future segments. Looks like some kind of gang sign that we're now throwing up.
That's the only one I know. Okay.
Hope this doesn't come back to bite us.
I hope no one kills me.
I hope not.
Nobody kill me.
It's on your head.
I don't know how I learned that.
Anyway, so to fund or not to fund is where we go through some Kickstarters and we look at some campaigns and see if they are worth our valuable dollars. So the first one I'm looking at is Nexpaq. It's a modular smartphone case.
What?
It's compatible with the latest and greatest Android and iOS offerings, so like the iPhone 6 or the Samsung Galaxy S6 as well.
I'm going to hit play here.
What it is it's a modular smartphone case that has these individual modules that you can pop in, and each one does something different. It is used for a different application. So you've got an amplified speaker there, a thermometer or humidifier or humidity thing detector.
Look how choppy the playback is here.
I think that might be the computer.
Yeah,
maybe you've got too many things running.
They don't have a max headroom type video going on here. This is really just some choppy playback from the
Right.
PC, so sorry about that. But
Right. But it's pretty much a case to fully customize your phone for whatever you might need it for. There's like a super bright, like a super LED on the back of it if you want. There's like a heart rate monitor or something. Those are all the things.
Pause.
Expandable storage, expandable battery
Oh,
life.
you got a freaking laser.
Laser. You got a
Hotkey.
laser?
What do the hotkeys do?
I have no idea.
You can just program them with the phone, maybe an app, and have the hotkeys like shortcut to apps or something like
just
that.
another
So
button,
just like
a
a
physical
button.
button on
Okay,
your phone.
that's cool. That was one of the other fun or not fun things you did, wasn't it? Was it just a Bluetooth button?
The little, it's just a button, keychain button thing.
Yeah, just a button you push.
And you can press it based on different patterns that you press it with. Yeah, it does different functions through an app. So
this is way better.
So all these modules that you use, I mean, they've got upgradable storage, expandable storage.
Air quality. How do you do air? Is it like a humidifier or a dehumidifier?
Something like,
An
it detects the pollution in the air, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, I need one of those for when I'm in Beijing.
Yeah, you do.
Amplified speaker, temperature and humidity, USB flash, backup, breathalyzer.
Breathalyzer's kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
So there's all these little different things that you can put on your phone. I think you can fit up to 8 of them. I'm not sure, but
that's definitely something like there's no app for that for a freaking breathalyzer, right?
No, definitely.
Yeah, you gotta have
that's the first
physical
of the kind.
hardware module on that.
First
to do
of
that.
its kind. Speaking of which, all of these do function with an app, a dedicated app, so you can further control each of their functions when necessary. The cool thing is that, let's say you've got one of these cases, and you've got an iPhone, and I've got one of these cases, and I've got a Samsung. We can swap modules. So the case is universal, even though it supports both Android and iOS, which is kind of interesting. Additionally, it's going to be $89 if you pledge on Kickstarter to actually get one of these Nexpaqs, and it comes with 4 modules. I'm not sure which ones they are. I'm guessing probably the battery and the expandable storage, possibly. But I don't know. Interesting thing. The thing that I am a little bit concerned about is how much bigger it will make your phone, because it's all about that slim, sexy new phone that you get that you really like being able to slide in and out of your pocket.
It seems like it adds the width of another phone to the back of your phone.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you look at that 3D CAD drawing right there. If you scroll back a little bit, it looks like it's literally double the thickness, like you said, of your phone. So it depends on how badly you need each of these modules versus the size. I mean, if you wear cargo pants every day, this probably isn't much of an issue. But if you're just wearing regular jeans and you've got other things like your wallet and your keys in your pockets, you probably don't want to add too much extra space
But I will say that
To your phone.
I have seen people who are more than willing to add that much bulk to their phone with like a massive battery pack add-on.
Yeah, true.
So something like this could be an alternative to that adds, because this does have battery pack capabilities, or like expanded battery capabilities, but then you add all this other features on as well.
What I'm curious to know is if you could attach 2 or 3 of these battery packs to it. Like, let's say you didn't want anything else, you just wanted to use it for extra battery.
Just all battery.
That would be cool. But if you could only use one battery extender on the case, that's kind of limiting, I feel.
I want to know if there's an add-on module that gives me a hook shot ability like in Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
They are planning
I'll take my
that
phone
for the
and just-
future. 2016, you will have a hookshot
Pull me over
module that allows you to
I'd be
carry
so-
the phone from
I'd be
A to
sold
B.
on this one.
Yes.
All right, so what do we get here? For $1, we get, they say, hey, thanks for giving us $1.
That's what a thank you costs these days, is $1.
So for $40, you can get the USB module,
just the module.
which is just a 32 gig module.
Right. You got to spend $89. Go to 89, and that's when you get the early bird special.
It's the early bird Nexpaq. So $90.
Right.
And those are sold out, so you got to do now
99.
$100 for the
Right.
iPhone 6 version.
Right.
Are these all? Wait, do they? No, they have Android. We showed
Yeah.
Androids.
Yeah, they do.
And here's all the modules. So battery power, amplified speaker, super LED flashlight, SD card reader, temperature and humidity,
Right.
hotkeys, USB flash, air quality, breathalyzer, laser backup, and just a dummy slot to fit into unoccupied other slots.
Yes.
Kind of cool.
The interesting thing about this concept isn't just what they have already, but what they could do with it in the future. So if you scroll up, there's a couple little sketches right there of just kind of ideas. And I see a gamepad
like
one
a
right
controller.
there,
That'd
like
be
a little
cool.
D-pad
Yeah.
there. So I mean, there's definitely some possibilities
like
here.
this is a HDMI or an 1/8" jack or a
right.
micro SD card reader.
Like, oh, I wish my phone had a mini HDMI port. Well, this
I don't know what I
this
see an
could do it for
NFC
you.
block. I see, what is this? It's like a radiator with some. I don't know what that is.
beats me.
Or this one down here, which just gives your phone eyes, so it can watch you all the time.
The surveillance module.
Yeah.
At any rate, it's the Nexpaq. Let us know what you guys think. I think at the end of the segment, Paul and I will decide which of these we would fund the most and which one we'd be least likely to fund. So moving on to the next one is Chip.
Okay.
It's the world's first $9 computer.
Nice.
So much in the same vein as Raspberry Pi, this little guy offers a lot of like full-featured PC-related activities for a very low premium.
Now, right out of the gate here, I want to point out their goal was 50K,
Yeah,
and they're at 1.06 million right now.
just kind of.
So they're
put
good.
things in
If you
perspective.
guys invest too, it's just going to be a little bit of icing on the cake.
Right.
But hey, man, $9 for a computer.
Apparently 1 million people are interested in buying a $9 computer.
Right.
And hey, I wouldn't have to disagree with them. I'm totally right up there with them. So just right off the bat, some specs. If you guys want to watch the video, it's really short and to the point, which I really like. I hate long videos on Kickstarter.
Why is it so choppy?
I don't know. What did you do? We never had this problem before.
Earlier it was because I had like 30 tabs open
And
and a
now we
bunch of
only
them
have-
were playing Shockwave garbage that was crashing, but now it's just getting a little choppy.
I wonder if it's the 4770K. Are you
That's-
using
that's-
H.264?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Eh.
Anyway.
Go ahead and watch the video when it's not so choppy like this one. But yeah, here are the specs. 1 gigahertz CPU, 512 megabytes of RAM, 4 gigs of onboard storage. You also get built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so you can browse the web easily on this thing. Check your Facebook, check your Twitters.
What does CHIP stand for? They're listing this as an acronym.
I know.
And if it's not California Highway Patrol, like CHIPs, like the old TV show I used to watch when I was a little kid, I want to know what this stands for.
Computer
Hardly
indicates price.
Computer hardly indicates price.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea what it stands for.
So 1 gigahertz processor, 512 megs of RAM, and 4 gigs of storage.
Yep,
You already said this stuff, didn't you? Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
I did. I did.
Okay.
And it can connect to your monitor via composite, VGA, or HDMI. VGA and HDMI via a little adapter that you'd have to use, but you can connect it natively to composite. so you can do pretty much what you could do on a really low-powered system. A really low-end system, you can do word processing. You could run LibreOffice.
They're editing spreadsheets here with that.
Surf the web, whatnot. It's pretty cool. I mean,
they're using Chromium to browse the web.
It's $9.
They're coding it.
It's a $9 computer. So
they're playing games.
You can even play games. It has Bluetooth, so you can connect a Bluetooth controller, which I guess that's a PS4 controller right there. That they are happily playing some 8-bit games.
They have it set up with a MIDI keyboard.
Right. So if you're a music producer, you want to dick around on that, go for it. It's also completely open source. So again, they're really pushing that same kind of Raspberry Pi vibe where they want modders and the community to take hold of this and modify it and change it in ways where they can make it do cool things with open source.
Why don't they say Linux? This has to be Linux.
I mean, they don't say it, but it does feel that way.
There's nothing this could be besides Linux, I feel like. Or some Linux derivative.
There's some open source OSs out there that might not be Linux.
But I feel like
there are a lot of
like
Linux copycats.
There's still no indication of what CHIP stands for.
None.
I'm not going to invest in this Kickstarter.
If you don't know what CHIP
I
stands
know
for,
what CHIP stands for.
It's a vital part to my purchasing decision. If you scroll up, you'll see that they have the Pocket Chip, which is basically like a handheld QWERTY keyboard. You can slot the actual chip computer into it and take it on the go. So if you don't have to bring your keyboard and monitor with you.
That's fun.
That's fun. You can play games on it. You can, I don't know, write people. Yeah, you got a Wi-Fi hotspot. Go for it. But the real seller here is $9.
So
pledge $9 and you get the chip.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Could I take this chip that we're looking at right here,
No.
which has a 4.3-inch touchscreen and a QWERTY keyboard?
The Pocket Chip?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Pocket Chip. Could I add that on top of the Android expander thing that we saw in the last version here, and like add a bunch of units on top of it?
Could you add it to the phone?
I want to combine them together. What was the phone one called?
The Nexpaq.
The Nexpaq. I want to add the Nexpaq and the chip together.
I don't think the Nexpaq is compatible with chip computers.
Okay.
Considering they're not really even available yet.
I know.
Neither of them are available
But they
yet.
should be. That
would be fun.
Give you a bunch of expansion modules.
That would be fun.
It uses a lithium-ion battery.
Yes.
Or lithium power. Yeah.
Yes.
3.7 volts. And it runs 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they say for 4 hours or for 6 hours or for hours? That could be 2 hours or that could be 127 hours.
This team needs you. They clearly need you.
I prefer just a little bit more. Maybe it says it somewhere else on here and I just haven't read it.
Right,
it's
so
open source. I like open source.
So all of you guys. Oh, okay. Somebody said CHIP stands for Computer Hacking and Intellectual Property. I think people are just coming up with their own acronyms at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too.
Come up with your. Give us your best chip acronym, folks. Let's hear it in the comments.
For $150, you can get a pre-release alpha model chip.
You can get
and
5
5 more chips, and then a pocket chip.
Yep.
For $489, you can get 10 pocket chips and 10 chips. Pretty impressive.
For all your friends.
And then they've got a timeline here, as well as a look at the team.
Yep.
I like the font that they've chosen. It's got kind of a hotline
yeah,
vibe
totally.
to it.
Kind of drive-esque.
Cool though.
You know what going on Kickstarter reminds me a lot of now? I recently started watching Silicon Valley. Have you started watching that show?
I have only caught like just a few minutes here and there. I haven't really watched it.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny and it's like right up our alley. A lot of the inside jokes and stuff like only you and I would get. But every time I like go onto Kickstarter, I'm like always thinking of that show because it's really just a group of guys like, you know, trying to hodgepodging an app and try to get investors in, and stuff like that. But yeah, kind of fun.
Nice.
But moving on to the last to fund or not to fund project that we have is the CyPhy Level 1 drone. No, it's not CyPhy. I watched the video. It is in fact CyPhy, and it's the Level 1 drone. It's a drone. And it's got image stabilization. It's got some other cool features. Now there's a ton of drones out. Drones are just exploding all over the place, as many of you guys know. But this one aims to be different in several ways. First off, it doesn't try to be complex with a controller. It doesn't have any joystick controller. It's just based off your smartphone, as you can see that little kid was using it.
Yeah.
It has a swipe to fly functionality, which basically means you swipe on your phone and the drone just goes in that direction. You don't
Okay.
actually, and if you want to change directions, you just swipe the other way. It's like you're kind of playing Fruit Ninja, but using that to control the direction your drone goes. Additionally, it's got real-time sharing to social media, so it does have a camera on there. You get 8 megapixel stills, or you can do 1080p. Didn't say what frame rate you're getting. I'm guessing 30 or 60. 60 would be awesome. But you can do real-time sharing to social media, so you could take a picture or a video with the drone, and then immediately send it to your Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, whatever, any social media platform, while it's still in the air, while the moment is still fresh, which is kind of cool. Additionally, it's got this, what they're calling level up technology. So, you know, like with the Phantom drone that we used to play around with, like at Newegg? I don't know if you played much around with.
I did.
But anytime you would go full speed ahead or back or whatever, the drone itself would actually kind of tilt. It would go forward at like this kind of angle, and it would kind of warp the camera to give it sort of like a distorted effect.
Oh.
Right, because the camera's fixed to the drone, and when you go full speed ahead, the drone actually tilts, and then it kind of creates this warp visual on the camera, if you will.
Okay.
Basically, what the CyPhy level 1 drone has done is they've created a way for the drone to go in all directions without ever tilting, if that makes sense. So when the drone's going forward, it's still completely parallel to the ground. It doesn't actually tilt, so which means the camera doesn't move while you're moving.
Showing in this little GIF right here.
Right, exactly.
There's a DJI on the bottom, which is tilted forward in order to move,
Yes.
whereas it's moving. Okay.
Exactly. So that theoretically prevents any kind of camera wonkiness that you might incur from that tilt action of the drone.
Ooh, I like this. Geofences.
Yes. So this is really cool. You can take your mobile app and you can walk around and create a virtual perimeter for your drone to operate within.
And if the drone gets too close, there's this
invisible
big
wall.
kind of translucent blue wall that appears.
It's not actually
it.
blue and translucent.
Oh.
That's just what they did on the video to demonstrate the technology.
That was special effects for the video.
That's After Effects right there. But I thought that was pretty cool. So you could actually give this drone to your little cousin or little sibling or whatever and have them dick around with it all day and not have to worry about them running into trees, because if you create a geofence that is not beyond that perimeter, then you're pretty much safe from anything outside
and
of
that does get you around those horror stories of like, I took a drone and I started flying and it just flew away.
Yeah.
And then it crashed to the earth a mile away and I never discovered it or damaged or whatever.
It fell in a lake of fire.
Yeah, lake of fire.
It was never seen again.
Carried there by a large bird. Talons.
At any rate, you get 20 minutes of flight time. I'm not sure, that probably goes down if you happen to be recording 1080 video during that. But
usually the camera in something like this would be separate from the.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so. It weighs less than 10 pounds or 2 pounds. Jeez. It's 1.75 pounds, and it's going to cost you $495 pledge for the base model. So about $500 for the pledge if you get the early bird special. But when it hits retail stores, if it ever does, it's going to be over $600. So if you want it, you can pledge, get $100 off. Seems pretty cool. But yeah, out of all three of these little campaign things, I would probably fund the chip.
The chip?
Yeah. I think I'd fund the chip because I would have the most fun with it. Nexpaq doesn't really appeal to me. The phone case, it's just too bulky. I mean, the only time I would ever use it is if I like went camping.
Yeah.
Or to like a music festival or something. But apart from that, I think the chip is $9. I can't say no to $9 for that much possibility.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's true. That's true. Just to be different among the three, I would agree the chip is very compelling, especially for the price and everything. The drone is interesting to me. I don't own like a drone or anything like that right now.
Yeah.
It's something I've thought was kind of cool, but it's not cool enough to like drop a bunch of cash on.
Right.
But it would be cool to have something like that, especially with the thought that's been put into it when it comes to like filming.
Yeah.
And getting like exterior shots or like, top-down shots of things would be pretty cool. So
and I watched the video on the drone, and the footage that they've taken from the drone looks really good.
It does look very nice.
Yeah.
And
very smooth.
For $400 to $600, depending on if you buy it early or if you get it at retail.
Yep.
It's not terribly priced.
Right. Yeah. So there you guys go.
Yeah.
That was to fund or not to fund. Let us know what you think about each of these three options in the chat. But we're going to move on to the next segment, which is, of course, the most loved and cherished Pimp My PC.
This has been your favorite, the most popular.
It has. It's been a
segment
huge
since you
hit.
brought it up.
You know, this is, again, a blatant rip-off segment of Matt Philly's Pimp My
I was
Setup.
about to say, I'm glad you thought of this segment on your own.
Yes,
With no
I completely...
inspiration elsewhere.
This is a completely original idea.
I was also.
I did not rip off of Matt.
I was also trying to spread the idea that you had this was originally your idea and that Matt got.
I saw that on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
I don't know why.
You go, Paul.
I don't know why I think that sort of thing is funny, but
No, it's totally funny.
Guys, if
'Cause it's messed up.
you're watching this and you're at all like watching videos, check out Matt Philly because he's
You're
got a
all
cool
watching
channel.
videos.
And
Yes.
he just recently quit his job at Best Buy.
He did.
And from what he told us, he walked out of Best Buy with both middle fingers in the air. That right?
Yep. Well, no. I asked him as
You
a
were
joke.
like, yeah.
I was like, please tell me you walked out with both middle fingers up. And he said,
He said
yes.
like pretty much yeah.
Pretty much,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So that's cool.
I know. Props to him.
For quitting Best Buy. Now a word of advice to you guys out there who might not work at Best Buy or maybe work at other companies. Generally speaking, if you're looking forward to like your career in the future, it's best not to quit a job. It's best to resign from a job.
Same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. It's very different.
Totally the
Quitting is like, I quit, I'm out of here, and I'm not working here anymore. Resigning is, I'm
Putting in your
leaving
2
this
weeks.
job in 2 weeks and giving the company enough time. Now,
Well-
this is not at all a knock on Matt. Good job, Matt, for making your decision and
Screw
moving
you,
on.
Matt. You
And moving on.
effed up.
And it's slightly different. I mean, the younger you are, probably the less impact it has. But I will say, for those of you guys who are, especially if you're earlier in your careers, even if you're working a crappy job, it's best to do it on a cordial basis. Because
Well, yeah.
because you don't want to burn bridges. That's all I'm saying. But if you're working at Best Buy, it's just fine.
But I always assumed that resigning and quitting were just synonyms for how you do it, how you quit differently.
No.
They're not.
No.
Quitting just means you actually quit the day you say
Quitting
you're quitting.
means I quit. I am gone right now.
That same day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Resigning means I am letting you know that I won't be working here anymore, and based on the congenial terms that employers and employees have agreed upon for the past however many years that people have
Right.
been working, in a reasonable manner for companies.
Right.
That's the way you leave a company.
Of course. Yeah. Sure. I just
and
always
that's-
assumed that some people,
Yeah.
when they say, "Oh yeah, I quit this job I was working at," I always think, "Oh well, they put in their 2 weeks." I never think that they.
And they're often used synonymously.
Right.
But generally speaking, resigned, especially like if you're
Sounds
going
more
to,
professional.
yes, it sounds more professional. If you're going to a new employer and they're saying, "Where did you last work?" and you say, "Oh, I worked at this company until this. I resigned recently." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like I quit because employers who are employing somebody, they don't want to look at your down the past if the relationship sours. They don't want that potential risk that somebody's gonna like cause a scene or something like that. But
Sure,
anyway, I
sure.
mean, okay, let's move on.
All right,
This
cool.
This is just general career advice.
The whole point of that was
Point
you should
being-
subscribe to Matt at
Subscribe to Matt,
youtube.com/SwashinTV.
yeah.
SWASHIN-TV. He does a really great segment called Pimp My Setup. We thought it was so great, we just had to rip him off.
Yeah.
So, hence, Pimp My PC. Let's go.
Shall we begin?
Starting off with Marcos. Marcos sent in
Marcos
his
Lopez.
rig, and it is that one right there. He's got some SLI setup going right there. Looks like, I don't know, those aren't matrix cards. What are
Guys,
those?
I need to shrink the window down if I want.
I'm not sure, but he's got 2 hard drives. Why do his hard drives look weird at the bottom?
What's
going on there?
Those are Raptors, man.
Oh, those are Raptors. You're right.
Those are Velociraptors.
He's got 2 of them. Very sexy.
A short. Oh man, those were so cool when they came out,
The Raptors, yeah.
and they got eclipsed so quickly by SSDs.
Yes, they did.
And I felt bad about it, but
You feel personally responsible.
yeah, like WD was the only company.
Oh, you're right. Crossfire. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you go back far.
My mistake.
What Oh, not SLI.
I said SLI
oh, yeah,
first.
It's a Crossfire bridge.
Yes.
WD was the only company who were we're gonna make badass hard drives
Yeah.
that look really cool with a window so you can see like the internal mechanical arms moving and stuff
Yes,
like that.
yes.
And I really appreciate that he's got not only 2 of them, but he's positioned them in such a way that you can see them.
Right.
Granted, these are older drives. SSDs will cream them performance-wise, but that's still pretty badass. Mad props for setting that up.
Yeah, they look nice.
The biggest things that stand out to me here are going to be the Noctua fans, which I feel bad even mentioning because I know they're really, really good performance-wise.
Yes.
So don't swap them out because they look ugly. That's what everyone says about Noctua fans.
Yeah.
That Crossfire bridge would be an easy swap.
Yeah, just go for a black one maybe.
Yeah, just an all-black one, something like that.
Right.
That'd be a great option there. Other than that, this is a beautiful system.
You could maybe get some sleeved extensions from either Silverstone or something like that to replace the ATX cable.
The ATX cables, ATX cables not looking so hot. Maybe those SATA cables you could also swap around a little bit. I think there's some other pictures actually in here though. I think he sent a few. Okay, yeah. So there's a little bit wider shot. And top-down shot.
Yeah.
So those are MSI graphics cards, I think. Right? I can't even tell.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Brown PCB, which isn't the nicest looking, but I mean honestly, like this, like oh,
he's got purple LED. Is that purple?
They're blue.
Right, it just looks purple.
They're blue, but when you typically most blue LEDs, when you take an actual picture of them without doing any adjustment, they look purple. So yeah, those are blue. This I feel like we're gonna get like as we keep doing this segment, we're gonna keep getting these.
Yeah.
Where I look at it and I'm like,
functionally,
from
it's great.
From a functional perspective, I have no complaints here. That's a beautiful system.
Yeah.
Your airflow looks fantastic.
Right.
Your
But the name of the segment is Pimp My PC. So we have the right to comment on aesthetics and whatnot.
So maybe modding those fans could be an option. The Crossfire bridge, of course. The PCI or the main motherboard extension cable.
Right.
You could swap out there. Other than that, though, I mean, not a whole lot going on. The graphics cards, like, they don't look necessarily to me like the kind of graphics cards that might just have backplates available to them.
Right.
But that's another thing that's very visible in this type of system is the top of your graphics cards. But I mean, those don't look bad by any means. I would say, the 24-pin, the Crossfire, and the Noctua fans are the kind of the glaring things that stand out to me.
Right. But all in all, I can see the love that was put into this system. Like, I love the 2 Raptors again down there. Show definitely commitment to the hardware. You've got 3 fans at the front panel, which provide really great airflow to your video cards, especially. The fact that you took the time to do Noctua fans and push-pull with that cooler is really nice to see. And all around, I think this thing probably kicks ass. And functionally, it's really great.
Yep.
So well done. Thank you, Marcos, for sending that in.
Beautiful,
Next
Marcos.
up, we've got Shabazz.
Shabazz
with his Arc MIDI from Fractal.
There you go.
Man, I haven't seen an Arc MIDI in a while. An Arc MIDI build. Bring it on, brother. You've got...
Oh,
it's a fan controller.
I was looking at it for a second. I thought that was the top, and I was like, how'd you get the fan controller mounted into the top? I didn't realize that... No,
how'd you get the computer to float?
Rotated.
Yeah.
I like that he actually has awesome hardware going on.
I know, me in the best pose ever. So here we go. Here's another build. What do you think of it, Paul?
Well,
what are your thoughts?
All right. So initial thoughts. Cable management doesn't look too bad.
Maybe a little bit by the power supply could be tidied up.
Could be kind of tied down and cleaned up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Ooh, got to rotate some of these pictures though, Shabazz, next time before you send them to us.
Indeedy.
Yeah, here I think we're really just dealing with kind of that typical PC component mishmash of kind of not matching colors.
Right, with the power supply and the motherboard.
Functionally is no problem at all.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're looking at how to upgrade. What is this? Oh, that's an X58 board. That's what I was missing there. I was like, why are there 6 DIMM slots? It's X58.
Right.
So I'd be curious what CPU you have on there, and how much you have it overclocked. I would guess if you're still running X58, maybe around a 950 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which would be still a very good option. I like that you have this case with easily removable fan filters to clean that out.
Yeah.
You have multiple hard drives down there at the bottom.
Right.
I want to say if you don't have an SSD yet,
Get
an SSD before you worry one little bit about any of the potential aesthetic updates here. Just get an SSD.
And am I not seeing any drives in that upper drive cage? It looks like it's pretty empty.
There might be one here. There might be one at the bottom because you can
see
some stuff like right there above it.
Okay.
Possibly.
All right.
But yeah, if that cage was empty, I would agree. Pull that out
right.
completely. That'll give you more direct airflow back from those front intake fans.
And I also know just aesthetically speaking, functionally, again, this is pretty good. But up top, it looks like you've got one black fan and one white fan.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, if you wanted to get another black fan in there or even another white fan. Honestly, you could go either way because you've got the white expansion slots already. So you could go with like the white, black, and blue theme if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Or you could swap it out for just a black fan again and make it a bit more stealthy. Either way.
So here's what I would do, Shabazz, if you're on the upgrade path, because you're on. Let's look at it. You're on X58 right now.
Time for an upgrade.
And you're gonna need to upgrade. Skylake, I think, would be a great opportunity for you. Or if you're like, or if you're totally fine, like if you've been using your computer, and you're like, I haven't noticed anything that's made me think, man, that was a little bit slower than I liked it to be. Maybe even hold off till Skylake E, because I think that would be a nice potential upgrade opportunity. Granted, that's going to be another year, but
yeah,
who knows? But my point is, you have this Gigabyte motherboard, which is blue, light blue, and white. And then you've got a black case, and the motherboard really, when it comes to coordinating everything, is what is hurting you the most.
Yeah.
So I'd say maybe start investing in some peripherals, or not peripherals, but some other upgrades here and there, to kind of flesh out the rest of the system.
Right.
With the idea being that in 6 months or a year, you're going to swap out your CPU, memory, and motherboard to something that will line up with all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion.
Definitely. Yep.
But nice build.
Thank you, Shabazz.
And I like to see people still rocking X58.
Yeah.
That platform had so much longevity to it. Like, dear Lord. All right, moving along.
Moving on to the next one, we've got Battlehorst. Battlehorst sends us his rig all the way in from, I don't know, wherever Battlehorst lives. But we've got an interesting system here. The first thing that hits me is it looks a little chaotic. I guess it looks like there's a lot happening when in reality it should be a very simple and clean build. I like the tremendous amount of airflow that you have with both fans at the front. You've got 2 exhausts at the back and the top, which is really nice to see. And that cooler, is awesome.
This is a Define R4, I think.
Yeah, he's got a Define R4 there. You can definitely tell from the drive cages and the front, the feet.
Quiet PSU.
But yeah, the PSU is great too. It's not modular, but you still have a lot of room to work with behind the motherboard tray. I think what I would change first is tightening up some of those cables. You've got a USB adapter at the back. You're using that extra slot, which I like to see actually, because that was a feature of the Define R4 that I was like, I don't think I'm going to use that, but it's kind of cool that they included it. I wonder if anyone's using that, and you happen to be using it, sir. So good for you for maximizing the potential out of this case. That being said, I think if the cables were black, if you could swap it out for another cheap option that was fully black, it might blend in better with the black painted interior. Or if you wanted to keep that same bracket, you could maybe just tuck the cables away a bit more nicely, so that they're not just completely almost distracting you from the video card itself, which you've got right there. And speaking of the video card and the cables plugging into that, again, with the ketchup and mustard cables, many of you know that I'm not a huge fan of that by now. It really doesn't match with anything. I like to see a build that's color coordinated to match with the ketchup and mustard cables. So you can just use the stock cables and it blends in completely. That would be a sight to see.
That would be interesting.
But apart from that, I mean, you've got this really nice, simple black and white color scheme going on from the Define R4, and that would actually make your USB pass-through right there match in quite nicely, I think. If you had the rest of it, even if you had the blue motherboard in there, make all the cables either white, black, or blue, and you've got yourself a fully color-coordinated system. That's the only thing throwing me off aesthetically is those the PCI and the ATX cables, and that SATA cable going to your optical drive up there.
I would also be curious to know how much use you actually get out of those rear expansion bracket cables, because those are, again, a functional thing, because you've got two of those going on. You've got a PCI expansion on the standard PCI expansion slots, as well as one on the upper one, or the more outer one that's kind of vertical.
Yeah.
And, you know, granted, those don't look terrible. They're kind of the white or off-white cabling going on there. But if you don't use those all the time, pulling those out could clean things up a little bit and maybe give a little, just like a tiny little bit more airflow to the power, or to the graphics card.
Mm-hmm.
But if you use them, just like leave them there. I don't want you to pull anything out of there, just
Sure.
like, inconvenience yourself. Other than that, though, I think this one does still seem to suffer from that blue and black, or blue, white, and black aesthetic that Asus was going with for a while. This is I looked up this motherboard because I wasn't as familiar. It's an M5A78L LE limited edition AM3 Plus motherboard. So this is an AMD build.
Okay.
And yeah, man, those blue motherboards they made when they were set up with like a blue system looked pretty cool. And other than that, they're so difficult to match with anything.
Right.
Unless you've got like black, white, and that blue.
Yeah.
So, like Kyle was saying, you know, getting rid of all the color from the power supply cables and maybe swapping out some of those SATA cables to get rid of that ketchup and mustard thing.
Yep.
Would be a good option. But again, it looks like a very solid build.
Yeah. Thank you, Battle Horse, for sending that in.
All right.
Next up, we've got a system build from Radioface Spurtle, who sends in his rig from God knows where. And it's kind of an interesting picture. It's a little bit tight, but I think I'm getting the grasp of what's going on here. You've definitely got a nice 120 cooler right there and push-pull. I'm glad that you were able to fit both of those fans in there. First off, a little bit of the cable management, I think. Again, cable management is a huge thing when it comes to system tidiness.
Yeah.
I think the front I/O could be tidied up a bit, especially since they're white against that black background of your case itself. I think you should really try using, I know it doesn't really have grommets, it looks like more of a budget case, but there's still a slot right there that you can kind of tidy them up behind.
I can tell by those 5 1/4 inch toolless things that this might be a Senti, S-E-N-T-Y?
Oh yeah, right. Yep. I remember us getting a bunch of those at Newegg and stuff.
This is not a top of the line case.
It's like a $40 to $60 case at most.
I can tell that just by looking at it. But yeah, like your front panel cables, those are going all over the place.
Yeah.
And you got a white, you got a twisted white and blue, or a twisted white and red.
Mm-hmm.
Stands out so much, and you could probably pass those back behind the cages for the optical drive and the hard drive, and really just try to get as little of them visible as possible besides what you have tucked back behind everything.
Right.
Again, this case looks like it might not have much room behind the motherboard, but your power supply is good. I mean, that's an RM750. It's got good plastic, they're not sleeved, but they're plastic covered or cables all the way down to the plugs. And yeah, but I'd say here that the real problem, the fundamental issue you got going on here is you got some primary colors in some major components that are all conflicting with each other.
Right.
So you have orange in the RAM, you got blue on the motherboard, and that's a 970A motherboard, so I know the PCB on the back is kind of brown.
Yeah.
The
power supply is yellow.
Power supply is yellow.
You got red on the 5 1/4
and then you got red highlights
cages
on the case.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to resolve all that. It's really hard to say, get rid of this and keep this.
Right.
Or otherwise.
Right.
If you're really looking to do an upgrade, you might consider, like, I would say the case, you might be able to pop those plastic pieces off, and with the right type of spray paint, maybe just color them black. That could smooth things out a little bit.
Right.
The memory modules, maybe not quite as much, but that's possible there.
You can spray paint the heat sinks maybe if you wanted to.
Yeah. But it does look like you've got some low-hanging fruit in that cable management.
Yeah.
You could pull that together, and give yourself a better experience overall, and you'll get a little bit better airflow there too. As far as like what to do overall, I don't know what to say, because I don't want to say get rid of that power supply. It's a good power supply.
Yeah.
I'd say upgrade the case. I don't think this is a super nice case, although I am kind of assuming to some degree. Keep the power supply, maybe upgrade the case. I don't know what to tell you about that memory. It's orange.
Yeah.
It doesn't match with anything. It's hard
Use
to
it for a
say,
different system maybe, and swap it out for some black dims, or
I would say honestly for this system, go in there and unplug things and clean up your cables, tighten those down, leave everything else as is because functionally you're fine, and then maybe do a little bit more forward planning for your next build.
Yeah.
And maybe this wasn't even planned. Maybe some of these were hand-me-down parts or something like that. But yeah, like, I don't know. If it's a $5 or $10 difference for me, and I'm looking at memory modules, and I have like a great deal on these orange ones, or $5 or $10 more for like the same thing, but
It's always worth
but
going
like in straight black. I'm like, yeah, I'll spend a little bit more on the color coordination.
RAM is for life. RAM is
true.
love.
That's
RAM is
true.
life.
All right.
All right. Thank you for that Radio Face Spurtle. Appreciate you sending that in.
We have that Carlos guy.
The next system
Now,
we got
he
is
gives
Carl.
He gives that. Yeah. This is Carl21221. He said he
It
needs
is.
color and cable management tips. And I call here Eve. I don't know what that means.
I think he meant to say I call her Eve.
Oh, this computer's name is Eve. That's
Yes.
good. It's good to name your computer. That will give you a closer bond with it.
Yeah, you'll start talking to it, and people
then
think
then
you're
you
crazy.
can refer to it by its proper name, and then you can begin to court it.
I feel like you treat it nicer when you assign it a human name.
That's it.
But anyway, this
Or
is
a code name like Arctic Panther. That's also cool.
or a code name, correct. So this is a really nice looking build. The first thing I noticed was it looks like you have some kind of custom shroud over your power supply,
Yeah.
which I think is cool. It looks like there might be some kind of scratching on the top, near the top or something like that. Maybe that's where you bent it and it kind of got a little bit messed up. But altogether, I think it's cool. I think maybe you could put like a decal on it. It just looks a little bit barren. It also depends on what your side panel window looks like, if that's being exposed at all, if it really matters.
Yeah.
But it looks altogether, you've got an ROG board in there, which is really nice, and you've got some red LED fans as well. So aesthetically, I'd like to see a little bit more building upon that color scheme with the fans that you have on your air cooler. Fantex is a great brand for air coolers. They make some really great heat sinks and whatnot, but I think those white fans are throwing me off a bit.
Hold on here.
Huh?
Carlos.
Carl.
Carl?
Oh, that Carlos guy.
Carl
You're right.
or Carlos.
Carlos.
I'm going to show you something right here,
What?
and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this,
What do you got?
although the picture's a little grainy.
ROG?
I think you still have a plastic cover on your heatsink. On,
Yeah, it looks,
on your
it
chipset
kind of looks like
heatsink.
it, yeah.
Right here?
Kind of looks
See
like
what I'm
it.
pointing at?
Yeah.
I think if you go to that heatsink,
There will be plastic on
go
it.
to the little corner edge of the black part right here, right?
And it even looks
right
like
down
there's
there where
like
I'm
dust
pointing.
been
Yeah,
built
yeah,
up
that's what I'm
on it
saying.
or under it.
And just go with your thumb a little bit and kind of pull at that. And I bet you'll have a plastic piece that just goes,
I think he
pulls up
knows
there.
how to pull plastic off of
and
things.
it'll be so satisfying to pull that off, and you'll be like, oh, it looks pretty,
Brand new.
fresh and new.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. Let's see though. Let's give some additional suggestions here. Your cable management up at the front with these fans. Granted, your side panel's off, so I don't know if this is as visible when the side panel's on. If you have
Right.
a window in there,
Right.
maybe it's not as visible when the side panel's on. But I feel like you could tighten those up a little bit. Just cinch them up, get them tucked away in the front of the case. Your graphics card peg connectors. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong about them, but I feel like you could kind of like bring those together a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
tighten those down.
Right.
Coordinate them so that they're pulling back a little bit into that grommet. You've got a Fantex cooler with white fans on it with white fan housings. That's the only thing that really stands out to me here. And honestly, it doesn't clash that much.
Yeah.
But maybe fans with black housings and white blades would match more with your intake and your exhaust.
Yeah.
And then leave those red fans on the top with the LEDs, because those are
Yeah.
for your... Wait, no, never mind. I was like,
It's
those
for
are for your
airflow.
radiator, but then that's not for a radiator.
That's
There's
just
there's
straight up
ra-
airflow
there's
right
no
there. Is
radiator, it's
exhaust,
just
I
airflow.
think.
They still look okay though.
Yeah.
But yeah, get rid of those red cables in the front, or at least tighten them down. Peg connector cables. Maybe consider swapping out those Fantex fans, but they're not too bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're looking really clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could use some tidying with the cables.
Right.
For sure.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos.
Appreciate you sending that in. And on to the next one, we've got Roberto.
Roberto Parga.
Roberto.
Dude, what's up?
Roberto's got a pretty sick looking system, actually. He's got 2 cards in SLI, I believe. Those look like Matrix 90s? Maybe?
Those are direct CU2
No, they're not
cards.
Matrix, but they're direct CU2. I don't know.
They're ROG cards, though.
Definitely ROG.
Hard to say which
huge,
card they are.
huge red and black theme going on here, which I love. You definitely are a fan of the Corsair series, Airflow, and their SP fans, which I see you have 3 of them on your H105 radiator, but
At the top, yeah.
at the top. But there's one missing. I'm guessing that's because of clearance issues with your heatsink on your motherboard, or something on your motherboard, where you couldn't get that 4th one on there. So.
And I believe this is a M7 formula, right?
Mm-hmm. Maximus 7 formula,
Maximus
possibly.
7 formula. I could be wrong there.
Get the heatsink.
I'm gonna look that up.
I got it.
Okay. Kyle's double checking to see if that's right or not.
Is it? Is it? Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes.
God, look how smart I am.
You're so smart.
Okay. All right. Nice power supply. Nice cable extensions. The cable extensions, I think, are the thing that kind of pop out to me here the most.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe that SSD, but the cable extensions first. You have nice, fully sleeved cable extensions. They look beautiful, but they're not really managed very well.
Right.
You've got 2 options you can go with here. One is zip ties. That's the inexpensive option, and that will just help you bunch them up a little bit more, make it look a little bit more intentional.
Yeah.
Get rid of some of those things where they're just kind of hanging loose. Second option would be, I don't know what they're called.
Cable combs?
Yeah, cable combs. That's what
Yeah.
they're. The cable combs you can stick in there, and there's different kinds you could buy, but you buy them and then you pop each one into those individually. Those keep everything like super clean.
Yeah.
As far as like the run of the cables go.
Right. Those almost look too perfect for me.
Oh yeah.
Where I almost prefer just like bunching them up with zip ties or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe you can get some red zip ties or even spray paint them or something to really blend in a bit more. Or you could just tuck them away so that you can't really see them from this view. But just building on what Paul was saying, I know he's about to say this, is the SSD as well.
Yeah.
You got the Samsung SSD in there, which is really great looking. It just blends in perfectly. But the Crucial, I think that's a Crucial M4 that you got there, just sticks out like a sore thumb just because everything is so well coordinated, black and red, and then you've got this just blatantly obvious blue SSD there. So maybe like the easiest and cheapest way to fix this aesthetically is just turn it around. Flip it around. You get a little sticker. There's a sticker on the back. You could probably take it off. I've done this with my M4 in the past.
Or
you can
pop
slot
out that
it.
SSD as well as your optical drive and spray paint both of them black.
Oh yeah, optical drive as well.
You got an ODD at the top there, and both of those.
You could, yeah.
Both of those are aesthetically standing out a lot to me.
Right.
The other thing I would say is maybe your LED placement here is not as ideal for me as it could be. My general practice with LEDs is that they shouldn't be you shouldn't see the actual LED diode at all.
Well, it's also because his side panel windows, or his side panel's off.
Yeah, so this is a 760.
Yeah.
And with the proper amount of patience and maybe even some cutting away with the Dremel, but you can get away without it. At the very top of that window and at the very bottom of that window, you have some space.
Right.
And you could maybe stick the LED in up there.
On the window or on the top
along,
of the case?
Along the door.
Right.
On the inside of the door, on the top and the bottom.
Yeah, that could work.
Which might, make that a little bit more. But
makes it a bit more even lighting possibly.
It's hard to say what this looks like when it's closed. If it's closed and you can't see any of those LEDs, then that's fine too.
Right.
But yeah, there we go.
Altogether, a really nice looking build, Roberto.
Very nice.
So thank you for sending that in.
Now, there's one other thing that popped out to me here, and that is that there's what looks like maybe an audio card in the number 1 PCI Express slot. Oh
yeah, it looks like the sound card's right there. Yeah.
And the only thing that stand out to me is that it looks like it's angled up a little bit. Right? You see what I'm saying?
No, I think that's just just a video card drooping.
Yeah, video card's down or the sound card is up. That's just something that
think there's more likely that the video card's drooping a bit.
Anyway, I don't know what you could do about that. It's just something I noticed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Moving along, we have Joe.
Joe Money.
Or Hulk Reality.
Joe.
Thanks for sending us a couple pictures
What
here,
do we got, Joe? Now, Joe, you've got some heavy hardware here. Hot and heavy hardware, I will say. According to your tweets, these are two 780 Ti's in SLI. You got a 4770K at 4.2 gigahertz and a new EVGA 1000 watt. First of all, you're lying. That is not an EVGA. That is a TR2 700 watt thermal take power supply.
I have to imagine this must be an older picture.
I would have to assume so. I would hope so on behalf of Joe's sake.
Well, he also said new.
Otherwise, he's a liar.
Yeah.
Damn you, Joe. No, I'm just kidding, Joe. This is a nice looking system. There's a lot of potential here. You've got a nice side-on cooler from Cooler Master in there. But
Oh, yeah.
I'd say the most glaringly obvious problem with this rig isn't the hardware itself, but the cables. It always comes back to the cables. Those hideous ketchup and mustard cables. I hate them. I hate them so much. Just swapping those out, even for the basic standard like flat black cables that come with most power supplies these days, would look 1,000 times better than the really bright yellow and red and orangish colors that we have here.
So can we, like, he said EVGA 1000 watt, right? He said new EVGA 1000 watt.
Hopefully that means new cables.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying is because I feel like any advice we would have about the system would almost entirely be about the power supply and those cables coming out of it to the graphics cards, and the motherboard, both the 24-pin and the 8-pin.
Right.
If you have a new EVGA 1000 watt, and it's the new ones that have those nicely sleeved cables on them, then you're probably good.
Yeah.
And most of that's taken care of.
Right.
I will say with your cable routing over to those SSDs, which looks like you have a couple 840 Pros, which are freaking awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe tuck that a little bit back more. I know I had this issue with the 760 myself. The way the SSDs are angled, Corsair made them so that when you put a Corsair SSD in there, it will be very visible.
Right.
But some SSDs, because they don't all have their labels on the same side, makes it so that putting angled SATA cables or power cables or SATA data cables on them, like, they go the wrong way, which seems to me maybe be what's going on a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because you've got these cables kind of coming out the front where you should really be able to tuck all of them back.
Yeah.
But very tiny, like you can get for like $1 or $2 each little tiny cable extensions for SATA.
Yeah.
Or like SATA to Molex adapters or that sort of thing. That are straight rather than angled, and that might allow you to do that. But again, if you have a new power supply here, then a lot of this might already be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Altogether, a nice looking system, though.
Yes, very nice.
Well done, Joe.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you, sir. And moving on to our final contender here for Pimp My PC is Tired Tortoise. He's got a micro ATX system I've got here, and I'm not sure which case this is. If you guys know, let me know. But this build caught my eye, first off, because of the adorable little Be Quiet fans that he has at the back. There's two little Be Quiet fans that look like they're 80 millimeter.
Those are tiny. They're maybe 80 or 92.
At first I was like, no, it's just perspective. They're 120s. But then you look at the radiator that's the front from the Corsair AIO, and those are clearly 120s, so those little Be Quiet fans are super tiny. Adorable. Yes.
We're saying. Oh, this is from Mace Ball, who says it's an Air 240.
Okay, remember that's exactly what I thought it was. Because you don't see the power supply, it must be on the other side. Air 240 confirmed. Thank you. But you've got a nice full-length power graphics card in there as well.
Yep.
Altogether, the tidiness of the cables could be managed a bit better on the PCIe side. I think you've got some of them kind of fraying out. I know there's always that little excess cabling that goes from one pin to the other. I can see it right there. Usually I zip tie that down and I press it flat against the video card if I can, or I hide it behind the full-length cable that runs into your grommet.
I think that's a GTX 980 too.
Could be a GTX 980, very probable.
I'm pretty positive it is.
Okay.
Because it's got the backplate.
Ah, it's got the backplate.
The removable panel.
Yes. Okay, 980 it is. So if you could just rewire those cables a bit better so that it just looks like one solid piece as opposed to fraying out everywhere.
Take that loop between the two PEG connectors, just like squish it up against that top cable,
zip
tie around it, and you can kind of compress all three of those, and it'll look a lot I mean, just get rid of that little extra loop there.
It looks
I
like
think
you
would be
could
very
also tighten
beneficial.
it a bit more behind the motherboard itself. It looks like you can just pull it.
Yeah,
There's a lot
pull
of
that back a
slack
little bit.
that's coming out. Another thing is that the cable that's coming from your CPU water block, I think that's the Corsair link cable.
Yes.
I see this a lot where usually people will take that cable and they'll just stretch it out to the nearest grommet and they'll beeline it. They'll just make a beeline from the water block to the nearest grommet. But I typically like, for those cables, I like to like string them so that they're more or less parallel with the motherboard. So I usually will route them like vertically and then I'll route them horizontally. And until they're out of the picture.
So you could bring
instead
that
of diagonal.
over. You could bring it like straight
Towards the
across
modules.
along the top of the water block.
Exactly.
And cinch it up with the rest of those cables and have them all going up together.
Exactly. I think that looks a bit nicer.
Just a touch.
But altogether, I really want to get my hands on those little Be Quiet fans. They're just so cool. But it looks like there's a lot of good airflow happening here. I love that the cooler. You've added some fans in for push pull. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Color coordination, of course. Maybe if you could get some green RAM modules in there to match the green on your 980, that'd be cool.
Z97M Plus motherboard from Asus, and
Right.
this gold.
You get some gold.
There's nothing to do about that gold heatsink.
Spray paint it.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think in this situation, either stick with what you got, because you got like silver, black, green, red, gold, and it's not. I mean, they don't like match, but they're not conflicting terribly to me because they're distinct elements. I think black memory
Yeah.
would be the best you could do.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can't get rid of the green on the graphics card. You can't get rid of the gold on the motherboard.
Right.
So, and those just don't match.
Yeah.
So
That's why I hate Nvidia for using green on the front of their flagship cards.
well, it'd be nice if they at least just gave you a little RGB LED in there.
It
But
would.
I mean,
It would.
I mean, the Titan X already is so expensive to make, right? For $1,000, there's no way they could
What's an extra
afford
$100?
putting an RGB LED in there.
Screw it.
Okay.
All right, and that concludes Pimp My PC for today, guys. Thank you so much for bringing in all of those awesome pictures of your rigs. I will probably be doing this again next week, so if you didn't get picked this time, be sure to stick around for next Tuesday. I will be choosing more options and more rigs to talk about. So thank you, guys. Moving on to our very last segment of tonight.
That's Q&A.
It's Q&A,
Ask us questions. We will answer them.
hopefully.
By the way,
I'll try to. What?
your site is already way longer than mine.
Is it really?
Yep.
It's Pimp My PC. It's all Pimp My
It's 'cause it's
PC.
Pimp My PC.
I'm discontinuing Pimp My PC.
What?
After a great night and a great show, it is now discontinued forever.
Oh, no more.
No more.
Okay.
Sorry.
Too bad.
You'll never have your PC advertised. Anyway, I'm totally joking, by the way. Q&A, let's answer some of your guys' questions. What do you got here? What do we got?
Reviews by Gary sent me a picture, and he said, "This is how I do SSDs that don't match. That looks like an I am apropos logo,
It is.
but I don't understand.
You have to show it on the stream.
I can't.
Well,
I'm not
people-
logged in there.
Oh,
There wouldn't be no quick, easy way to pull it up.
okay. If AMD went bust and had to sell, what tech company would you want to buy them and why? Obviously, can't be Intel or Nvidia.
Would I want to buy them?
Who do you
Well, I
want?
mean, the rumor recently has been Samsung. AMD to me recently has been making some progress. I mean, the problem is they're suffering through so much trouble
Yeah.
that like the positive side of what they're doing is harder to see.
Yeah.
So like they, what is it, a year and a half ago, got a I forget his name, but he's a chip engineer guy, like
Okay.
really hardcore, very well known, very well respected guy who had worked for AMD, and then he went to work for Apple for a while, and then he came back to AMD. But this
Okay.
is a little while ago.
All right.
But when he joined, everyone was like, "Hey, cool, he's joining." But then more recently, but then everyone was also like, "Well, he's joining, but you're not going to see the impact of what he's doing for a while."
Yeah.
And I really wish I knew his name. Maybe somebody in chat can point
Somebody
it
in chat, help Paul out.
out. But
We know his name.
the stuff they're talking about with Zen kind of gets me excited that maybe his influence is finally starting to play out there.
Yeah.
And I would like to see them make a big jump forward. since the question is who would I like to see buy AMD,
Right.
I don't think it necessarily matters as much who buys AMD so much as how they go about buying AMD and how they go about directing AMD's business afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think from the other industry people I've kind of heard speculating on this, the best case scenario is for somebody to bankroll AMD because they don't have money. That's their problem.
Right.
There's other companies like Intel and Apple. They have lots of money in the bank, so they can deal with losses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
AMD not so much.
Right.
So AMD needs somebody to bankroll them so they can keep doing what they're doing. Because I don't think they necessarily have a bad idea of how to go about doing business. I think they've suffered through some pitfalls of the market, and also I mean some poor decision making as well has taken its toll too. But yeah, I'd like to see a company like Samsung come in and say, hey,
that'd be cool.
We're gonna bankroll your operations for the next year or two, and let you keep kind of working on the stuff you've been developing, because it seems like that they have stuff in the works, but if they can't keep their marketing team together to talk about it and advertise it to people and spread that message, that's definitely a detriment to them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I could actually see Samsung taking them over. I feel like Samsung has the resources to actually drive an already huge company like AMD. I mean, it would have to be a company that's already well off and doing well. And I feel like Samsung has been killing it lately in the PC DIY market. So if they could just implement some of their resources into AMD, they might be able to keep them a bit more competitive with Nvidia. I'm sorry, with Nvidia and Intel in the future, which would be nice to see. For sure. What are you blaming me for?
Gary, reviews by Gary. If you guys are on Twitter, you can look this up. Reviews by Gary tweeted to me a custom painted green memory cooler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That could have easily been used for one of the systems that we were talking about earlier that needed green modules.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Any other questions?
Nope, we're done.
We're done. I don't see any other questions. Someone asked coffee or tea. Neither. I hate both of them.
What? I drink coffee.
I drink coffee occasionally.
Although I'm not opposed to tea.
I don't like tea. It's too hot. Well, coffee's too hot too.
What?
Tea's more of a nighttime thing for me.
Okay.
Coffee's in the morning. But, I drink decaf. Everything. Caffeine.
Okay.
Makes me freak out.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke. I hate Pepsi. Pepsi's the worst.
That's from Zulu Joe Mama.
Pepsi tastes horrible. It's just sugar. Well, so is Coke.
Right, here's a real question. OBKid09 asks, he's looking to get an RGB keyboard. What would you recommend?
An RGB keyboard?
RGB.
If you're looking for customizability, then the K70 or the K95.
What about the K65?
K65 if you're looking for portable LAN stuff.
K65 is 10 keyless.
10 keyless.
Yeah, I mean, Corsair right now is the only place to go that has kind of the trifecta of Cherry MX switches, RGB lighting, and a full-featured software suite.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want all three of those, then Corsair, and then you have your choice of a K65, which is 10 keyless, a K70, which is more standard size, or K95.
K95, yeah.
Which gives you extra macro keys and stuff like that.
Bear in mind though, you need to be willing to invest the time to get those cool lighting profiles. I mean, unless you just want to go the route of RGB Share, which is the new program we were just talking about, Corsair rolling out earlier, and just download people's profiles. That's a great way to do it too. But you are opening Pandora's box if you buy a K70 or a K95 RGB or whatever, and you're planning on making your own profiles, because it is complex. Let me tell you, it took me hours to figure out basic concepts of the software. So just so you know what you're getting yourself into. If you just want a board that looks sparkly and that can do a cool rainbow effect, then there's things like the G910 from Logitech, the Orion Spark, which does a great job of that. It has funky shaped keycaps, which some of us can get around, some of us can't. But I think the LEDs on that are actually a lot brighter and more vibrant. You get better hues and stuff than the K70. Than Corsair's RGB series. And there's also alternatives, cheaper alternatives like the Lobera Spectrum Supreme, which I recently did a review on, which has the best looking RGB LEDs that I've seen on a mechanical keyboard, but functionality isn't even close to what the Corsair's line of RGB keyboards can do. So it just depends on what kind of functionality and LED quality you're looking for in terms of brightness. I will tell you this, my Corsair RGB keyboard has the crappiest looking lights. They're very dim.
Yeah.
If I'm in a well-lit room like this, I can barely see them, and it's not satisfying to look at. It's only like when I'm in really dim environments or when the lights are off, when I can be like, ooh, yay, it's doing a rainbow.
Okay,
Other than that,
enough about RGB keyboards.
All right.
UK Rapture asks, opinion on the new Kinetic cooler. I don't really have an opinion right now. I think it's a cool theory, but it's not a retail product, so it's hard to say too much about it. And then, wait, there was another one. All right, JetBoy71 says, Johnson?
Johnson?
Or Johnson?
It depends. It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
It's like the F word.
You have to choose.
Sometimes you say it quietly and very like
wisely.
in remorse, and sometimes it's like, ah!
Rage Virus QQ asks, oh, is there gaming tonight? Oh, yes, there is.
Of course.
I will be gaming later on twitch.tv/Paul's Hardware.
And I will be gaming later on twitch.tv/Awesome Sauce Network. Indeed.
Zulu Joe Mama asks, opinion on Razer products. I will say that I have a Razer Death Adder right here.
Deathly.
And I will say it's a fantastic, fantastic mouse, and I use it all the time. It's my floater mouse. I find I give very high credence to my floater peripherals. The ones that I like don't have always plugged into the same thing all the time. The ones that I use
like
all
me.
the time. And this mouse, I'm like just tracking and button placement and comfort and all that stuff. I mean, I've had this for a couple of years now. Yeah. And I really like it. Razer products in general, overall, I mean, I've used quite a few of them, and I think they make good products. So definitely not a Razer hater.
Yeah. I like Razer. I think they make some good products. I think they can be a little overpriced at times, but that doesn't mean their products are crap.
Yes.
I've had a headset or two from them that I didn't like at all, although I've had headsets from nearly every other company that makes headsets suck. Like Corsair, I've had some Corsair, Logitech ones that I didn't like. Yeah.
Pop Pressure asks, what games do you guys play? Lately, just GTA 5.
Pretty much for me too, yeah.
Lately it's been a lot of GTA 5. There's a lot of anticipation, a lot of waiting coming for that game. So when it finally released, it's just like, it's GTA 5.
True.
So I've been playing that all the time. I'd say the other game that I've played most often besides that would be probably Civilization 5.
Yeah.
Just one of those games. It's a crazy time sink, so I don't allow myself to play it very often.
Yeah. But and I was playing a lot of Evolve before GTA 5.
Evolve was
cool. Up until they did the DLC type thing, and now I just feel mad because I can't fully enjoy the game without spending more money on it after already buying the $60 game.
Yeah,
so.
and I don't want to spend any.
But it was fun. Before that, it was fun.
All right. We should probably wrap this up, though. We've been going way longer than intended.
I agree. But speaking of that, thank you guys for sticking with us the whole way through.
Indeed.
We understand that this is supposed to be a 2-hour show, and sometimes it's more like a 3 or 3.5 hour show. That's just because we've got a lot to talk about, and we love hanging out with you guys. So thank you all so much for participating and joining us here today on this beautiful Tuesday evening. So that's going to do it for now, guys. Again, I'm Kyle with the Awesome Sauce Network. This is Paul with Paul's Hardware. Check out his Part A if you haven't already. I know it's you should have probably done that beforehand, but you know, better late than never, right?
Some people like to pretend like they travel through time.
That's true.
Watch.
A lot of time travelers in here.
Before the past, for the past before the future.
No fault in that. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for next week, next Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. or 12:30 UDT. No, UG.
It's like
UCMT.
GMT. Let's just go with Greenwich Mean Time.
There you go. Hey, you'll figure it out. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night. We'll see you on later tonight if you're going to be joining us for some streaming. And so long. We love you. Goodbye.
I love you more.